Peymon who?
Mottahedeh.
Peymon Mottahedeh. Who is he?
Never paid taxes in 30 years. Fought the U.S. tax court and won.
See, I believe our rights come from God, not from government. Do you want to be able to pay zero estate taxes, no matter how huge your estate may be, even into billions of dollars, legally and safely? I will show that how to you in this presentation. My name is Peymon Mottahedeh. I am the founder and president of Freedom Law School, which I started in 1996, and been liberating American people from paying federal income taxes that they legally do not owe at freedomlawschool.org. But here I'm going to focus on estate taxes. Very few Americans ever owe estate taxes anyhow. Why? Because your accountant or CPA or even your tax attorney will tell you, well, here's, according to IRS's own official website, the exemption amount is quite large. The minimum threshold that requires you to file and pay estate income tax in year 2025 is about $14 million, and 2026 is $15 million. So very few we ever receive inheritance that large to worry about it. But guess what? I know a few of you do have big inheritances. You'll be able to keep all of that money legally and safely by following the law as found on U.S. government's own official legal websites. Yes, you see the law in the Internal Revenue Code, the Bible of the IRS. This is what the accountants and CPAs and even most tax attorneys pretend to know, but they do not know over 10,000 pages of gobbledygook, tiny font tissue thin language, because they don't teach that to them in law school or accounting classes. But here you'll see it for yourself. Let's go now to the government's own official website at uscode.house.gov. This is the official legal website of the U.S. government. They published the law here by the House of Representatives lawyers to let the whole world know this is the law. We're going to go right now to the section of the Internal Revenue Code online that applies to estate taxes. But you can follow me along anytime you want to look up these laws. Type in 26 space USC space. Then the code section that I announce space, and then put uscode.house.gov, and then they'll come up on your computer or your phone just like you see me doing here right now. We're going to go from Title 26 Internal Revenue Code, Subtitle B about estate and gift taxes, okay? Chapter 11, estate tax, okay? And then Subchapter A, estate of citizens or residents, and Part 1, tax imposed. The relevant section is here, Section 2001, imposition and rate of tax. Here it is. A tax is hereby imposed on the transfer of the taxable estate of every decedent or decedent who is a citizen or resident of the United States. Okay? Very simple. I agree with the law because that is the law. Okay? We're going to follow that to the T. In fact, the IRS Form 706, okay, which is called the United States Estate and Generation Skipping Transfer of Tax Return, okay, this form on it correctly says below the main headline that it is for an estate of a citizen or resident of the United States. So the key term here you see is the United States. That is the key term you see here in the form. And that is a key term you see here in the imposition of the tax, because it applies to people who were citizen or resident of the United States that passed away. Okay? So the whole thing hinges on United States. Everybody knows the United States is 50 states, right? Not always. And not necessarily. You gotta go look for the fine print and definitions in the Bible of the IRS, the Internal Revenue Code online. You just gonna love this. So hang on with me, okay? So we're gonna go now to Title 26 one more time. Internal Revenue Code, the Federal Tax Laws, Chapter 79, Definitions. Here we go. Section 7,701, Definitions. It tells us, when used in this title, again, what title? Title 26, the Internal Revenue Code, the Bible of the IRS. Okay? Here they define many common terms that do not need any defining, but Congress chooses to define these otherwise very obvious things that you think do not need defining. But they have sometimes very short definitions, sometimes some very detailed and long and specific definitions about so many things. We have to go by these short definitions. So let's go to 7701, 8, 9, and 10, United States and state. Let's do state first. Okay? The term state shall be construed to include the District of Columbia. Yep. Where such construction is necessary to carry out the provisions of this title. Do you see as a state of California, Florida, New York, any of the 50 states? No. That's funny. None of the 50 states are listed in definition of state. But funny thing is, District of Columbia, which is not a state, it's a district. It's a federal district, is listed there as a state. Huh? Why? Well, because they can. The lawmakers can define things, anything they want, as you will see by Supreme Court cases. Now, let's go. Now we know that state means the District of Columbia. Nothing else is there. How about the United States? The term United States, when used in a geographical sense, and that's what we want to know. What landmass area, what geography does it cover? It includes only the states, which now we know means only the District of Columbia, and the District of Columbia again. Well, yeah, one District of Columbia to another, or 10 or 1,000 of them, what do you get? You still only get District of Columbia. No France, Egypt, China, Florida, Texas, New York. None of them are listed there. Okay? So United States means only the District of Columbia. Now I know. Most of you are thinking, oh, come on, Peymon. Everybody knows the 50 states are implied in states and United States. Come on. What are you talking about, Peymon? Come on, get back to the program. Hold on. Let's go to the U.S. Supreme Court. Do you agree with them? I sure do. Let's go see what the U.S. Supreme Court says about these definitions and how we must interpret them. Supreme Court case of Stenberg versus Carhart. It came out in year 2000. And here is what the relevant language of the court says, okay? It says, when a statute or law includes an explicit definition, like what you just saw, we must follow that definition, even if it varies from that term's ordinary meaning. Yep. Doesn't matter ordinarily. 50 United States means 50 states. Here, or state means all the states included. Here, Congress chose to list only D.C. in states and United States. We have to go by that. the ordinary meaning is out the window. Because lawmakers can define things any way they choose to do it. Okay? And then furthermore, the court says it is axiomatic, which means self-evident or obvious, that the statutory or legal definition of the term excludes unstated meanings of that term. Something is not listed there, okay, in the definition, it is automatically, obviously excluded because the lawmakers decided to leave that out of the definition, right? Now, so that makes it very clear the United States that you saw earlier, the definition of the United States does not include the 50 states, okay? But I'm going to give you another Supreme Court case. This one is about tax cases, because this is a tax case, estate tax. And the rule is even harsher and more restrictive on the government in Gould versus Gould, unanimous 9-0 U.S. Supreme Court case in 1917, okay? And here's what it says. In the interpretation or understanding of statutes or laws, levying taxes. So, in understanding laws that impose taxes, it is the established rule not to extend their provisions by implication beyond the clear import of the language used, or to enlarge their operations so as to embrace matters not specifically pointed out. So basically, look, there's no implying or assuming something like the 50 states are included in state or United States definition. That's number one, okay? So United States, again, that you see and state defined here in Section 7701. They do not list in state or United States anything except the District of Columbia. So United States and state only include the District of Columbia. So United States only means the District of Columbia, not the 50 states that normally we assume. Furthermore, the court gives us one another critical guidance, actually mandatory guidance. The court says, in case of doubt, any doubt about this issue, that, I'm not so sure about this. Well, the court says the tax laws are construed or interpreted most strongly against the government's power to tax and in favor of the citizen not being taxed. There it is, folks. Any doubt you got? Put it out the window right now. The 50 states are not listed in the definition of state of the United States, therefore they are not there. The United States is only D.C., therefore this estate income tax law applies only to who? Citizens and residents of Washington, D.C. Okay, and I'll give you one more example of the 50 states being actually in definitions by Congress in tax laws. Here's again from Title 26, Internal Revenue Code. Okay, here's subchapter A, Tax on Petroleum. Here we go. Definition, section 4612, and special rules. And it tells us, for the purposes of this subchapter, what subchapter? Subchapter A, Tax on Petroleum, right? Oil. So look at this. The United States term is defined specifically to mean, look at that, the 50 states. Wow. 50 states are there. They didn't forget about it, okay? Because they meant to include it, and they did. And the District of Columbia, and on top of that, a bunch of U.S. territories specifically mentioned. Territories you never even heard about, exist, like the Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands. Where the heck is that, right? And also includes continental shelf areas and even foreign trade zones. See, you cannot assume anything when it comes to tax laws. If they want it there, they would put it there. So what does it all mean? At the end, it means this. Okay, right here. Let's come back to it. when it comes to estate tax, right? Okay, and imposing this tax, right? When we went earlier to Section 2001, imposition of the tax is imposed on transfer of taxable estate of every decedent, someone who passed away, who is a citizen or resident of the District of Columbia. That's right. A DC person who passed away. Okay. And again, the form here that we have here, this form, this United States, is actually District of Columbia estate. Someone who is a citizen or resident of District of Columbia. See, but they don't make it easy for you to see. They deliberately hide the definitions, okay, in Section 771 at the end. Not at the beginning for you to see, or the very end. It's hidden near the end, okay? So you would never bother looking it up in your accountant, your CPA, who's not taught law, even most tax attorneys. They simply say, well, I'm going to pretend I know the law and just follow my advice. File the estate tax return so that I will not lose my license to practice a CPA or attorney, and and everybody's happy. But no, you're unhappy because you paid millions or maybe billions of estate tax that you and your family never owed to the federal government to begin with. Okay, so let's get back now. You can do this with a guarantee or on your own. Yes, you have options about all this. Okay, and that is the 10 for income tax individual form. Also, by the way, it's the same thing. I'll cover that in my other videos. By the way, I will cover in other videos how generation skipping tax and gift tax, just like estate tax, do not apply to people in 50 states. Neither do income taxes, payroll taxes, wagering, gun manufacturing taxes also do not apply to people in 50 states. Those are my other videos, okay, at Freedom Law School's website, okay? And so here, what you want to do, go to our website, freedomlawschool.org, and never again voluntarily pay the Washington, D.C. swamp legally and safely with a guarantee. If you wish to have the guarantee, it's there. You click on the 7 steps to regain your freedom. 7 easy steps, folks, okay? And you start by following the law. That's how you free yourself of income tax slavery with these easy 7 steps. But the step I think most of you will be interested in is what? Step number 6, Restore Freedom Plan, okay? And this is for people who are like America's founding fathers, want to stand up for freedom. Don't give any money to the corrupt King George of England, who uses money to enslave the America's founding fathers and their generation. They decided to do those people? Rather than paying 3% T-tax, they supported George Washington and Company. And that is what you're doing. Take your money from the D.C. swamp, King George, to give it to the freedom movement, to George Washington and Company of today by banding together. That's what this is about. Now, if you do that, guess what? Freedom Law School Restore Freedom Plan offers you great benefits, okay? Well, guarantee that you can get a 100% guarantee IRS will not put you in jail for not having filed and paid estate taxes, okay? And when you legally stop filing and pay estate taxes also, this is for income taxes, but we are going to do the estate tax freedom plan as well, okay? And when you become a member of that, guess what? All the work will be done by Freedom Law School. You get unlimited consultation, unlimited legal work as necessary. We pay the attorneys, not you. And if they ever take any money from you, millions or billions, it doesn't matter. Freedom Law School will reimburse you in full from our funds. You're completely safe, okay? And the membership program is 30% of what you otherwise would have paid the DC swamp. So 30% of what you would have paid in your estate tax, you contribute to the George Washington Company, the modern day freedom movement to get our liberties and freedom back again for you and your children and your grandchildren. And the other 70% is yours to keep with 100% guarantee and peace of mind for safety for you, your property, and your family. So, for further questions, contact Freedom Law School. And these cases are handled by myself personally because they're not small ones, they're big ones. So ask for me for estate planning consultation. And after a review by my people about the basics of your situation, they will set up a time for you to discuss your estate planning freedom with me personally. I love you all and thank you for taking the time to educate yourself to be free. You were meant to watch this video. This was no accident. Yes, you were meant to be free. Your estate was meant to be free for you and your family and not go to the swamp, and instead to keep it for your family and help restore freedom in America. So thank you. I love you all for taking the time to educate yourself and be part of having America be free and great again at freedomlawschool.org.